going to do a start to finish strawberries in a jar video and teach you all the things that you need to know. So if you don't know me, I am Amy Cross, and this is the Cross Legacy. I have went viral in this last year teaching the strawberries in a jar hack that has been shared over 17 million times. And this is the famous glass jar that I use to keep my strawberries fresh for 3 weeks at a time. So this is brand new fresh strawberries from Costco from this morning. I always, when I'm buying them, I flip it over. I already dropped a leaf in my water. Did you see that? I flip it over and I make sure there's no moldy ones. Try to get the best package that I possibly can. And so I already put cool water in here. You don't want it too cold or it will like freeze your berries. And I'm just gonna place these in here gently. I'm looking for any moldy ones that might be in there or bad ones as I'm going. These all look beautiful. It's strawberry season. There's some big dark ones here. I'm just gonna place these in here. Move this out of the way. And then I use a 1/4 cup of distilled white vinegar. I'm going to put this in here and set the timer, and then I'm going to talk about the vinegar. Something I didn't realize that I did until we started filming is I sit here and I bob them around like the whole time. So don't mind me as I do this, but okay. So we use distilled white vinegar. If you're in the United States, it's a 5%. If you're in Australia or the UK, it's 4.5%. I know it's probably going to be backwards what you see, but I like holding it. But most of the companies will have produce items on the vinegar that you want to use. It doesn't necessarily have to be this brand. I normally buy it in the big plastic gallon jugs and I refill them. That's what I just did a few minutes before we started filming, was refilled 2 of my bottles that were empty. So I keep the glass bottles in my kitchen, it's easier, and then I keep the plastic bottles in the pantry. You can also use apple cider vinegar, but the distilled white vinegar is what I use. And I do this process because it kills off all of the mold spores that are on your berries. So when you bring them home, if you clean them right away, then those mold spores aren't growing and attaching to other berries and ruining the whole bunch. And it also kills E. coli and listeria. So just this week there was a big FDA recall on strawberries because there was hepatitis A on strawberries that were sold in March and April, and now it's like almost June 1st and we're just finding out about this from March and April. So if those strawberries were washed when you brought them home, then you wouldn't have to worry so much about them having different bacteria and pathogens on them. You're doing what you need to do to have it the possible safest for your family. Ooh, there's a big old bug on here. So I just let these soak for 2 minutes. I say 2 minutes because that's all you need to kill all the bacteria and the pathogens on there, and they don't get all mushy, they don't get ruined. And if I said 5 minutes, you would go swap the laundry. So 2 minutes, set a timer, don't forget about them. See, 2 minutes is up already. So then I'm going to put them in a colander and I'm going to rinse these off. So I'm gonna just do a hand pick in there so you can see how dirty the water is afterwards. You see in the bowl. See all those floaties? When people ask me if I reuse the water, this is why I don't. It's absolutely nasty. There's bugs, leaves, and just the strawberry seeds. Dump that out. So the berries I'm going to rinse off. Again with cool water. And then I'm gonna lay them out on a towel until they are bone dry. And normally this will take around 3 hours, depending on how warm your kitchen is. So you can lay them on their sides and flip them around, or you can lay them on their tops like this. And more surface area will be drying. As they are drying, I will move them around sometimes over the course of the afternoon. So as you can see, this takes like 3 minutes to do. 5 minutes tops. You just do it, leave them alone for a couple hours, and then we're going to do the final process after they're dry to put them in a jar. But even if you're going to eat them right away, you want to make sure that you wash your strawberries every time right when you bring them home. There we go. Okay, I have a paper towel in here, and that's what I normally use for berries. I also have these little white microfiber towels, but strawberries and raspberries, blackberries, berries will stain these towels, and I do not like them stained, and I don't use bleach, so I like to keep them white. I get asked all the time, like, oh, I try not to use paper towels in our household. I do also. We only go through maybe 10 paper towels a whole entire month. It takes me months and months to go through a roll of paper towels. We only use them for jars. So if you're worried about using too many paper towels, you can put a cloth in there, but I would suggest, if you didn't want them to stain, to put a paper towel or a napkin at the bottom. And then also when they're drying, the strawberries aren't as bad as raspberries when they're drying, but to make sure that you lay them out. And you can also do this with all different kinds of berries. In my book, I Bought It, Now What? I have all the instructions for strawberries, but also all the extra tips for raspberries and blackberries and grapes and all the other things to keep each individual produce item the freshest for the longest. So I only go grocery shopping once every 3 weeks, and we have almost zero produce waste. The average American family throws away 30 to 40% of the groceries that they buy, and that is what my calling on my heart is to help other families learn how to not do that. To be able to save money and use the groceries that you are bringing home. The other question I get asked all the time is they put the berries in the refrigerator and there's condensation in the jar. So they know that they've followed the instructions exactly the way that I teach on Lacrosse Legacy, but there's condensation in the jar. If there's this much condensation, then I will just take a clean towel and just kind of reach in there and dry it out. Came out of the fridge, so it's the outside's fogging up. And then you can leave it in the fridge with the lid off for a couple hours, and then put the lid back on, and it will be fine. So the main thing is if you soaked it for 2 minutes, use the correct 1/4 cup of vinegar to the large bowl of water. You let it bone dry. That little bit of condensation you don't have to worry about. I would just dry it out a little bit, leave the lid off in the refrigerator for a couple hours, and then put it back on. So your berries will be fine for weeks. They won't ferment if you did the washing process and drying process correctly.